Okay, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to show you step by step how to create a new orb, a new room, and an R box. And you will work from one of the orbs that you have downloaded. So if you have WGGE on your screen, you're going to double click that. That's why I'm showing my screen here. I have the WGGE image here, and I'm going to double click that. That is going to bring up a screen which takes me to solo. Okay, I always make sure I go solo. Now, when you browse here, it's going to show all the orbs in your God folder. So you don't have to be too particular for today's exercise to pick one or the other. I'm picking Lab 2 orb, and I'm going to say OK, and because we're going to create a totally new orb. Okay, I'm in an orb that I have opened up from my WGGE file, and let me hit the tilde key and get back in there. Okay, so I am going to hit Alt-E. That brings up my editor. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and right in the middle of the bottom here, it says New. I'm going to go ahead and click New. It says you're about to erase your beautiful orb. You won't actually erase it because we're going to rename our new one a different name. So Lab 2 will be saved. So anyway, I say yes. I go up to this thing that says no name here, the name of the orb, backspacing, and I'm going to call this Lab 3, L-A-B 3. Okay, now you're going to see it's a completely black screen. I'm on general. I go over and I do my left carousel, general. Now I go into view. Now I do object. Nothing showing up, wall, and domain. Okay, I am going to go ahead and hit add. All right, I get to domains and I hit add. All right. Okay, we're adding a domain. I'm going to go ahead and hit the G for grid so that it's going to help us with building. Now, let me go ahead and pick my ceiling texture. I go ahead and click into the ceiling texture, and I right click, and I am going to see what kind of a ceiling texture I want. So I click on BMP. That'll bring up all the bitmap files that I have in my God folder. So let's just say, what's that look like? Bookshelf, carpet, cement. Let's go ahead and stay with good old cement 11. Okay, so it doesn't really matter for, again, this is a demo, so I'm going to say okay, cement 11. And for the floor, let's right click there. Let's go ahead. What do the carpets look like? Oh, no. Let's go down. Cobble. Let's go ahead and do cobble 01. Okay. Now I'm going to go down to my walls. So I right on the carousel. I'm going to right click on the carousel. Now, in order to make a wall, I click once, preferably on one of the dots of the grid. Click once with my left click. And now I drag up with my mouse. I don't click yet. I get to another dot and I click. Okay? Now I'm going to right click to seal that wall off. I'm going to go over and make sure that the front of my wall is going to my new domain, which is actually true because the new domain is domain 0. We always start at 0. Okay, so that looks good. 0 is the front, -1 is the back. That's always going to be the case with your first domain. Okay, so now I'm going to click again once, left click on the corner here. I always build clockwise, by the way, and I'm going to drag that over and I click. And now I drag down and I click and I drag over and I click. Now all of those walls are pointing the correct way because the nibs on the walls are all pointing in and they're all facing in to domain 0. Okay, now I do need to put a texture on the wall. So let me go here, I left click into it and then I right click. And let's find a good texture for the walls. Let's try maybe some wood. Let's try Tudor and see what it looks like. Okay. It's going to show up in a certain, however it shows up. We'll see. Okay. So I've assigned my texture to my wall. And now I'm going to go back to my domain and look, my domain is intact because when I put my mouse over it, it shows that it is functioning as a one domain. Another way to test this is to right click on it. And if you can move it around, that means that you've joined all the walls properly and that it is a functioning domain. Just one other note, my ceiling height is 128 here. I'm going to go ahead and bump that up to I'm going to make it even higher than that. Multiples of 128, I'm better. So 256 times 2 is 512. So I'm going to actually go to 512 with this. Let's do that. I'm going to stay in multiples of 128, and you'll find out the reason for that later. I've got that. My domain is good. My walls look okay. And on my object, I have to assign an object. I'm going to put my viewer right here in the corner. I left click once to assign an object. It's called the O player, as you can see up on top. Okay. And down below, I'm going to give that an ID name of player. And enter, okay. And then I go past the view screen. I go to general, and it looks like everything's okay. I'm going to go save, enter, load, enter, and then Alt-E. And let's see what it looks like. Okay, well, look, here's a surprise, which is not a surprise that there's a surprise. And the surprise is that the Tudor wall looks good, but that only one of those walls got assigned that texture. So let's go back to the editor. This is great to find out what happened. Let's go to my walls. And let's see, wall number 0 here does not have a mid texture. Wall number 1, no mid texture. Wall number 2, no mid texture. Wall number 3 got assigned the texture. Okay, that's not a big deal. Let's go ahead and Tudor 01X. Let's go here, go to that next wall, and I'm going to left click, right click, Tudor 01X. I'm going to say OK. Then I go to my next wall, I down arrow key, 0, 1. Let's go to Tudor, left click, right click, Tudor 01X. And I'm going to say OK. And then I go to my second wall, left click, right click, tutor 01, X, and I am going to say OK, and that should be good. I'm going to say save, enter, load, enter, and we are going to push Alt-E, which brings us to the room. Okay, so this is the room with the tutor walls. Okay, and the cement ceiling and the cobblestone floor. Okay, so